Hello, good morning. This is Bill Curtis, the Executive Director of the Consortium for Information and Software Quality. Welcome to this Cyber Resilience Summit hosted by CISQ and the Cyber Standards community. This year's theme is from securing the supply chain to enterprise DevSecOps. I wanted, before we launch into our sessions and I introduce you to my co-host, Luke McDonald, I want to give you a short introduction to CISQ. Luke McCormack is my co-host today, and he'll be running a number of the sessions, and I'll turn it over to him in a second. But first, let's start with a quick introduction to CISQ. Next slide. CISQ was formed back in 2010 by the Software Engineering Institute and the Object Management Group. OMG is an international standards organization, and chartered to produce international standards for automating the measurement of software, both the size and quality of the structure of the source code. We're supported by a number of sponsors. I'm going to introduce you to those later on, and we have a number of partners that we share a lot of activities with. Next slide. These that we've produced at this point, roughly 9 standards or 8 standards, and one is underway. And these are standards for both size relating to automated function points, and one called automated enhancement points that deals with trying to capture all the software, both functional and non-functional, plus our measures for quality, for reliability, security, maintainability, and performance efficiency. You'll see in gray one for data protection. That'll be introduced later on by Joe Jarzenbeck. Technical debt's another measure that is based off our 4 quality standards to measure the technical debt within an application. We've collapsed those together into one standard called Automated Source Code Quality Measures, and that is that kind of has both weaknesses for both IT systems and embedded software. Tracy, click the. We've submitted these to ISO. OMG has a fast track to ISO. We submitted automated function points, and a couple of years ago that was designated as an official ISO standard, 19515. Next click. And we have submitted automated source code. It has been tentatively approved. We still have some final changes to make before it becomes an official ISO standard, but it does have an initial approval. So we've used OMG's fast track to take some of the CISQ standards and move them over into the ISO domain. So that's one of our primary objectives. Next slide. This is how we've created these structural quality measures. They're created from measuring weaknesses in the source code that are things you know you have to fix. For instance, in a security environment, if you see a SQL injection or cross-site scripting, buffer overflows, you know these are things you have to fix. At some point, you've got to get those out of the code. We didn't include weaknesses that you could defer forever. So these really represent severe weaknesses that need to get fixed. All of these weaknesses now have now have CWE numbers. They are captured in the common weakness enumeration maintained by MITRE Corporation, and so that's part of an international standard recognized by the International Telecommunications Union. So we're doing our best to capture these CISQ standards and keep them aligned as close as we can with international standards. Next slide, Tracy. I'm the American representative to the ISO 25000 series standards, and we have kept the CISQ metrics aligned as closely as we could to the ISO 25010 standard that lays out a software process quality model, software product quality model. You can see there's 8 different characteristics, quality characteristics in 25010. In the light blue are the ones that we have provided measures for. ISO 25023, next click, Trace, it is the standard that defines software measures, but very few of those measures actually are measures at the source code level. CISQ deals at the source code level. We actually measure the software product itself. So the CISQ measures, especially the one that's tentatively accepted by ISO, will supplement the ISO 25023 standard by giving you measurement at the source code level of these 4 quality characteristics. And we use the sub-characteristics as ways to make sure that we had captured the entire domain, that we had good domain representation for each of those measures. Next slide, Tracy. We're deploying the CISQ measures, and that's one of our major activities now, is to get these deployed across industry and government. Next click. A major focus is on trying to incorporate these into federal and state IT policy and get them used both referenced in regulations and used as requirements or acceptance criteria in system acquisition. You can see we've already had several agencies either reference these measurement standards or cite them in an RFP. Next click. We're also focused on getting these into industry, working with people that manage contracts, manage sources, and sourcing their work to system integrators and others, and use these as benchmarks as well. So a major activity is now deploying the CISQ standards and CISQ measures both in federal and state policy as well as corporate IT policy. Next slide. We encourage you to join CISQ. We're supported by sponsors, but you can become a CISQ member. Individuals can do this. It's free. You just go to our website and click the little membership button and answer some questions, and our program executive, Tracy Berardi, will send you a password, and you're in and you're a member. You can get access to all the standards for free. There's lots of presentations and white papers and other kinds of material there in the website that deals with the structural quality of software, measuring size, and other kinds of issues. So there's just a lot of information there about software quality and these various measures. You can see we have almost, at this point, almost 4,000 members. We've passed the 3,000 level. And there you can see the companies that individuals have come in and signed in for memberships from. It's really a broad range of corporations and industry and public agencies. Next slide. I want to thank our sponsors, our founders, both OMG and Software Engineering, as well as our various sponsors, CAST, CIG, ISHPI, Northrop Grumman, Synopsys, Tech Mahindra, the Center for Systems and Software Engineering at the University of Southern California, as that they provide the funding to keep CISQ going. We would enjoy having additional sponsors join. Also, the U.S. Cybersecurity Challenge is a partner for this particular presentation. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over now to Luke McCormack, who will host the next session and introduce our agenda. Luke?
Great, and real quick, Bill, this is Tracy. While we pause here just briefly on the agenda, just a couple quick housekeeping items. Yeah, this is Tracy. Hi, welcome everybody. Feel free to use the chat box as well. I'm going to be moderating it and sharing some links to presentations as we go. And just for your awareness, we'll be recording all the sessions and making them available. But I thought it would be fun. You know, we have a series of poll questions throughout the day, and if we could, just curious, our first poll, I'm just going to deploy this. You can take a look. You know, is this your first time attending the Cyber Resilience Summit? To take the poll, yep, you could just select, and then we'll display the results. We have a bunch of these, and we'll see how this goes. Thanks.
And thank you. You want to throw that agenda back up on the screen there?
Yes, I can do that in 1 sec. Let me close the poll.
Okay, now just keep the poll open. That's okay if you'd like. But let me walk through. Thank you very much for that introduction. Thank you, Dr. Curtis, for your timely introduction. And what a timely subject, right? We all have heard about software eating the world. Well, software is eating the galaxy at this point, and we all know that there's nothing we're not doing these days without a lot of software being written, a lot of purpose-built software being written, a lot of low-code, no-code, and a very timely subject and a very meaty agenda, which we're going to start off with Mr. Robert Kolaski there, who's going to talk to us about a very timely subject. And not just that, I'm sure he's going to broaden that, talk about everything that's going on in that domain. And then we've heard a lot about CMMC. It has been launched. It is active. They have gone through a variety of activities, and can't wait to hear an update on where exactly they are. Then we're going to roll into a real good discussion, panel discussion, and really talk about, the data protection and development operations. And then we'll roll it over to securing 5G. We hear a lot about that in supply chain. Heard a lot about cloud 5 years ago. Now we hear 5G, supply chain, what it means. Hey, that's real. A lot of software in there. Very important to have resiliency baked into those. And then this introduction on bill of materials, real important subject. That'll get unpacked and explained, and we'll take a nice long lunch break in there. We're going to have a lot of interjecting. We are going to interact with the audience, take those questions as was described, etc. Try to sort of spice it up a little bit, be a little bit interactive, and interject those into these conversations. And then it's on to DevSecOps and DoD. Estimating cybersecurity costs, real important. Another break, continuous diagnostic mitigation from the master himself, Mr. Cox. And then we're going to wrap it up with two kingpins, the Honorable Karen Evans and the Honorable Tony Scott, to close it out for us. Meaty conversation, a lot of discussion, a lot of good speakers here, and certainly a whole bunch of great topics. So with that, do we want to throw the results of the first poll up there? I'm going to say 50% plus first time. That's my prediction, and I have not seen that. Wow, okay. Okay, 73% of you first time. Well, you're in for a real treat because we've got a lot of content and top-rate speakers here that really know their stuff. And let me start with the very first one, which is Mr. Kolaski.